All right, let's take a deep dive into CJ Box's Battle Mountain. We've got a YouTube video summary here, and wow, this one looks like a real page-turner. Missing persons, a falconer on a revenge mission, and hints of a conspiracy. It's all there.
Yeah, and what really grabs you right from the start is how Box just throws you headfirst into the action. You open with Joe Pickett, our game warden, getting summoned by the Wyoming governor himself. Turns out the governor's son-in-law, Mark Eisel, has gone missing. Vanished while on a hunting trip in those rugged Sierra Madre mountains.
And the governor's really pushing to keep it all hush-hush. Makes you wonder, right? Is he more worried about his son-in-law's safety, or is there a scandal brewing?
That's a really good point, and it kind of gets to the heart of those big themes Box plays with. Power and deception, The governor's all about secrecy, which makes you think there's something bigger going on than just some guy getting lost. This isn't your everyday search and rescue mission.
Absolutely not. And to add to the mystery, Eisel wasn't alone. His guide, Spike Rankin, a real seasoned pro, he's vanished too. What could make a guy like Spike disappear in the Sierra Madres? It's not exactly a beginner's hiking trail.
Right. The guide vanishing just throws more fuel in the fire and makes you think maybe whatever happened to Eisel and Spike, well, it was planned. Someone who knows those mountains really well could be behind it.
Yeah, this isn't some wrong turn situation. And just when you think it can't get more tangled, in comes Nate Romanowski. Now, he's a falconer with a serious score to settle.
Nate. Talk about a guy you don't want to mess with. He's skilled, resourceful, a real force of nature. But what drives him is this deep personal vendetta. He's hunting down the man who killed his wife, Axel Soledad, and guess what? He's closing in on his target in the same mountains where Eisel and Spike disappeared.
Okay, so now we've got these two separate threads. Joe looking for those missing hunters, and Nate on his own mission of, well, let's call it justice. I have a feeling their paths are going to collide, don't you?
That's classic CJ Box, wouldn't you say? He's a master at weaving together these parallel stories, keeping you on the edge of your seat, wondering when they'll finally intersect. And as Joe digs deeper into this whole missing hunters case, he starts finding clues that point to something much darker than just a couple of guys getting lost. We're talking spent military-grade shell casings, reports of gunfire. This isn't your typical hunting trip gone wrong.
It's starting to feel like we're heading into conspiracy territory, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of conspiracies, we meet Soledad, who's not just Nate's target, but also this ruthless leader, gathering a group of mercenaries and radicals.
And their plan, well, it's way more ambitious and way scarier than we first realized. They're planning a full-on attack. Hostages, explosives, the whole works. And their target is Battle Mountain itself.
Hold on, Battle Mountain? Isn't that like some kind of exclusive gathering place for the world's elite? This is starting to feel huge, like it could have global implications.
You're exactly right. Battle Mountain is this super secluded spot where powerful figures from all over the world are supposed to meet. This isn't just a local crime anymore. Soledad's plan, if it works, could send shockwaves across the globe.
The stakes just went way up. But in the middle of all this tension, there's this incredible encounter in the wilderness. Nate bumps into Joe face to face. They're both after Soledad, but they're coming at it from completely opposite sides of the law.
And yet, despite all that, they decide to team up. This is where Box's characters really come alive. Both Joe and Nate, they have this strong moral compass, even if they express it in totally different ways. They recognize how serious this situation is, and they're willing to put aside their own agendas to face a bigger threat.
It's an odd couple for sure, but it just works somehow. They might not see eye to eye on everything, but they've got a common enemy and they both believe in justice. But just when it seems like they might be gaining some ground.
Well, the story takes another turn. While Mark Eisel and Spike Rankin are trying to make a daring escape from their captors, we find out that the governor, the one who asked Joe for help in the first place, is actually involved in some secret deal.
What? You're kidding. The governor, the supposed good guy.
Yeah.
So he's playing his own game, but whose side is he really on?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The governor being in on this secret deal throws a whole new wrench into things. Is he trying to hide something? Or is he being manipulated by forces beyond his control? It's hard to tell.
Talk about betrayal. We've got hidden agendas, a web of conspiracies. And now it turns out even the people in power can't be trusted. And just when you think it can't get any wilder.
Well, the mountain itself decides to join the party. Yeah, a landslide. Crazy, right? As if things weren't already chaotic enough.
I was like, come on, what else can go wrong?
Box really uses this natural disaster, which, by the way, is triggered by all that crazy shooting, to just totally reshape the whole conflict. You can practically feel the ground shaking beneath you as the mountain throws a wrench into everyone's plans.
So it's not just, like, a metaphorical earthquake. It's a literal one. I'm definitely sensing a theme here with the environment playing such a big role. It's almost like the Sierra Madres themselves are another character in the story.
You're really picking up on something important there. That vastness of the wilderness, the unforgiving terrain, it all adds to the suspense. It's a constant reminder of how powerful nature is and how quickly things can change.
This landslide definitely shakes things up, literally. Do you think it changes the power dynamic in the story?
Oh, absolutely. It's a great equalizer. It doesn't care who's on what side. It impacts everyone equally. Joe, Nate, Soledad, even the governor. They're all forced to reevaluate their plans and priorities in the face of this natural disaster.
It's like a reminder that no matter how carefully you plan or how much control you think you have, nature always has the last word. Speaking of surprises, let's talk about Morales. I mean, he was supposed to be an informant, helping Joe and Nate, and then, bam, he betrays them. What do you make of that?
Morales' betrayal really shows how deceptive this world that Box has created is. You can't always trust appearances, and alliances can shift in a heartbeat. It's a constant game of cat and mouse, and in this case, Morales was playing both sides.
It makes you wonder who you can really trust in this whole mess. It seems like everyone has their own agenda, their own secrets to protect. Even the governor, who's supposed to be the symbol of authority and trust, turns out to be playing his own game.
It is pretty sobering, isn't it? The governor's involvement in this secret deal just highlights the fact that power can corrupt even the best of intentions. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the characters and their motivations.
You said it. And just when you think you might be starting to understand the players and the motives, Box throws us another curveball. After the landslide, Mark Eisel reveals that Soledad's plan wasn't about attacking the summit after all. The real target is something hidden beneath Battle Mountain.
Now this is where things get really interesting. It makes you wonder, what could be so important that it's buried under a mountain? What are Soledad's real motives? And what will happen when it's unearthed? It completely reframes the story. It makes us reconsider everything we thought we knew.
It's like we're starting a whole new mystery.
Yeah.
Layered on top of the one we were already trying to solve. This revelation about something hidden beneath Battle Mountain really adds a whole other dimension to the story.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, knowing C.J. Box's style like you do?
Well, Box is a master of suspense, and he loves to plant those seeds of doubt and intrigue. This twist with the hidden target plays right into his strengths. He's inviting us to speculate, to draw our own conclusions based on the clues he's given us.
It's like we're right there alongside Joe and Nate, trying to piece together the puzzle. You mentioned Box's style, and I think it's worth pointing out how he uses these larger-than-life scenarios to explore some really deep themes. We have Joe, the dedicated game warden who's fiercely protective of his family and his land.
And then there's Nate, this mysterious falconer who lives on the fringes of society. He's driven by this thirst for revenge, but he also has a deep connection to nature.
And let's not forget about the corrupt governor, the ruthless mercenaries, and the mountain itself, which almost seems to have a mind of its own. It's like a recipe for an explosive, thought-provoking story.
Exactly. Box blends action, intrigue, and character development in a way that keeps you hooked. He's not just telling a story, he's creating a world that pulls you in and makes you think about the choices we make and the consequences that follow. He's holding up a mirror to society, showing us the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And in the middle of all this chaos and moral ambiguity, you have Joe and Nate, these two unlikely heroes, trying to make sense of it all, each in their own way.
Yeah, it's really impressive how Box can take this super intense, action-packed plot and still weave in these really well-developed characters.
It's that depth that makes Battle Mountain more than just your average thriller, The whole partnership between Joe and Nate, that's really fascinating stuff. They're like two sides of the same coin, the lawman and the outlaw, but they're both driven by this deep sense of justice.
Right. They might not always agree on how to get things done, but they both know that Soledad has to be stopped.
And the fact that they have to work together, that they have to put aside their differences and prejudices, well, that's what makes their dynamic so interesting.
Exactly. It's through them, through their interactions, that Box kind of challenges us, the readers, to do the same, to look beyond our own assumptions and try to understand people who might be different from us.
It's a powerful message, for sure, especially these days.
It is. It really makes you think about how easy it is to get stuck in our own little bubbles, surrounded by people who think just like us.
Yeah, but Battle Mountain kind of forces us to step outside our comfort zones and look at things from a different perspective.
It reminds us that there's always more to the story than we see at first glance, and that really understanding something means having empathy and being willing to listen to other points of view.
Definitely. So where do you think Box takes us from here? What's next for Joe and Nate? And what secrets are actually buried under Battle Mountain?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? Box definitely leaves us hanging, wanting more. Will Joe and Nate uncover the truth in time? What's going to happen to the governor after all this? And what about Morales and Soledad? Are they really gone for good, or are they waiting in the shadows, ready to make their move? Who knows?
Guess we'll have to keep reading to find out. But one thing's certain, C.J. Box has written a story that's both exciting and thought-provoking. The kind of story that stays with you long after you finish it.
He really has. He's created this world that's both familiar and kind of unsettling, where danger's lurking everywhere and nothing is quite what it seems.
Yeah, I'm already hooked, ready to jump into the next book and see what happens next.
Me too.
And for you, listener, I hope this deep dive has given you a taste of all the suspense, the intrigue, and the moral dilemmas that are waiting for you in Battle Mountain.
It's your turn now. Explore this world, get lost in the pages, and see if you can solve the mysteries at the heart of it all.
And remember, nothing is as it seems. Pay attention to the characters, what drives them, the choices they make. You might be surprised by what you discover along the way.
That's right. Enjoy the ride.
Until next time.